Hello and welcome to this episode of Hospitality Talks, and I'm absolutely thrilled to have Brett Boyers, who is Commercial Partnerships Director from the Restaurant Brands Collective with me. Brett, welcome to Hospitality Talks. Thank you for
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So Restaurant Brands Collective is a relatively new business and one that I've just been recently learning about. For anybody out there who doesn't know you or hasn't heard of you guys yet, do you want to just explain exactly what it is and what it entails?
Yeah, so that's right. We set up the business in August this year, and the principle behind it was all about creating a portfolio of brands that people could license and use within their own existing operations. So it is the principle behind it is virtual brands. We've created a portfolio of restaurant brands that can be used in the delivery market, but more importantly, can actually be used internally in the likes of hospitality and entertainment venues like hotels or bowling alleys, casinos, and the brands are fully formed brands. They've got a presence online. They've got Instagram feeds. They've got websites. They're the sort of end-to-end brand that an operator would need in order to enter the delivery market. But equally, if they're not comfortable creating their own food propositions, they can use our brands either under white label proposition or the existing brands within their sites.
Right, I see. Okay, so yeah, I mean, it's pretty much a fully formed offering then for any operator, whether they want to do it internally or as delivery. And obviously, interestingly, with the pandemic and everything, we know that delivery has increased massively. Some figures that I was made aware of about 3 months ago were that before March 2020, around 7% of people had actually used a delivery app. We now look at that figure as being approaching 30%, which in research terms is a massive jump. You've obviously launched during, not because of, the pandemic. Talk to me about launching a business in a pandemic, because it's making my heart go like this just thinking about it. Running a business in a pandemic is enough. Yeah. Launching one, tell me about it.
I think, initially when you're describing what we do to people, they think, oh, well, obviously that's why you've done it. The pandemic's hit. There's opportunity for in the delivery market and the growth in the delivery market, and this is the perfect time to be doing that. It has obviously been a challenging time to try and set up a business during this time. But the reality is that our offer was, all the principles about what we wanted to do were developed long before COVID hit us earlier this year. And in particular, when you look at the sectors, as an example, the pub sector or the hotel sector, that traditionally have not capitalized on the delivery market and the food delivery market, this opportunity gives them, I suppose, the turnkey solution to be able to do that. So it's been challenging. We've obviously had a number of shutdowns and sort of restarts as everyone has. Supply chain has been good. We were quite fortunate to work with some good suppliers that have been bringing in decent product for us to have a look at. But we've managed to tick over, and of course we've had a lot of interest in the last few weeks in what we're doing and obviously what we're bringing to market.
Brilliant. And so tell me, why is our Restaurant Brands Collective, RBC, why are you different to other food franchises? And indeed, would you even refer to yourself as a franchise?
Yeah, it is a franchise, a bit of a dirty word, not one that I like despite my background. But the reality is, the reason why it's called franchise is it is exactly that. And that's purely because of the sort of the royalty structure that we have behind the brands. But the principles about what we do is that we are creating a portfolio of brands that people can take straight away at very low cost and therefore very low risk to themselves. So the operators can get up and running very quickly with the training, with everything that we offer, without having to spend a big amount of money to do that. So traditionally, if you were going to go off and franchise one of the major high street brands, you would have had to buy in to the brand initially with an upfront fee, and those are usually very sizable sums of money. And then you'd be paying for marketing fees and royalties on an ongoing basis. And what we're trying to do is eradicate all of that, and it's purely down to a very small setup fee, but that actually includes just sort of basic equipment and training and whatnot, but then a small royalty. So it's a franchise because that's the fee structure. It's a royalty structure, yeah, we're not trying to pass the risk on to someone else. Obviously there's some great franchise operations that are well established and do very well in the market, and they offer their franchisees some really great propositions that drive huge sales. But quite often it's done to grow restaurant brands that may be struggling, and to move the sort of risk onto a franchisee. That's not what we're doing here, and this is as I say, it's only called a franchise just because that fits into the definition of it.
It's a recognizable phrase, absolutely. So tell me, if I was an operator, and let's say I've got my fingers in a few pies, and I've got a wet lead pub, but I've also got like a local bowling alley, and I've also got maybe a sort of a small cinema or something like that. Why should I mean, I thought what was really interesting, by the way, is how your brands have already got their own social media. They're already set up, they already exist, so they've already got that sort of footprint behind them, which is fantastic. But why should I, as an operator, take part in what you guys are doing, and how does that differ depending on the type of operator I am?
I think when you're looking at the major restaurant brands and indeed the major pub companies, so if you look at Pizza Express, Green King, TRG, so the restaurant group, they're all operating virtual brands. They're operating a number of brands under different branding out of their existing estate. They obviously have the internal resources to be able to set those brands up, and they've got the skill set, they've got the money to do that. But a lot of the smaller operations, and indeed, as we've seen the number of redundancies come through during the COVID times, a number of the smaller or medium-sized businesses no longer have those abilities. They don't necessarily have the skill sets or the resources to be able to set up those food propositions. So I suppose going back to your point around if it's a cinema or a bowling alley or a wet lead pub, what this does is support you on the food offer. So if your strength is not in the creation of food propositions, this is, like I said earlier, a turnkey solution that someone could just drop in. We'll come in, we'll train your team, we'll be there to be able to support you and guide you throughout the time. And more importantly, we'll make sure that the menu and the offer stays alive through specials or through seasonal changes. But operationally, we're there to support you then as well, to ensure that if there are problems that you need help with, we're there to help.
Thank you. That's really useful to know. So looking to the future then, obviously, the tier system is up and down constantly. London going into tier 3 tonight, and obviously a lot more of the country. I think they're talking about 23 million people will be under tier 3 as of tomorrow. How does franchising, or certainly a brands collective like yourself, how does that fit into a future of such uncertainty within the hospitality sector?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously the pub sector has had real challenges, and in particular, linking in with the fact that unless you're serving a substantial meal in some of these areas, you're unable to trade. So the principles of being able to have an off-the-shelf turnkey food offer would solve a lot of problems for a lot of people. Mm-hmm. And so we've worked hard over the last couple of months to be able to bring those operations into our portfolio of brands. So not necessarily relying on on full kitchen setups, but looking at how you can get a substantial meal out of limited kitchen equipment. but yeah, I think, look, the opportunity is going to be there for a long time to come, COVID or not. Deliveroo operates around 30,000 restaurants on its platform. At the end of last year, they only had about 2,000 virtual brands. Now, as the bigger players, as the bigger restaurant companies are seeing that as an opportunity, there is clearly more opportunity for the smaller operators or the medium-sized operators to take advantage of that. And I think that if you run, even if you're a restaurant now and you're running a pizza business as an example, you are appealing to a certain demographic of your consumer that's in the area, and if you can start appealing to just a few more, that could be the healthy lunches or the breakfast time slots, or someone that's looking for a burger for the evening. You're only going to grow your sales. Deliveroo reckons that one virtual brand will generate around £1,500 worth of sales additionally a week. Obviously, if you've got a portfolio of brands, that could go up to sort of the 4,500 mark, depending on how many brands you've got. And during our initial tests that we did with a partner in London, we were seeing sort of 13% sales growth in their sites, purely from the introduction of just one of our virtual brands into their business.
Wow. So it sounds to me like, an offer as the Restaurant Brands Collective actually has various different places within the industry and has various different, not necessarily problems to solve, but certainly areas that it can help operators with. Brett, thank you so much for your time. We've run out, and I need to thank you so much for coming on and for talking to me. And it was really good to understand a little bit more about what you do. And anyone out there, any operators out there, or anyone else that wants a bit more information than Restaurant Brands Collective, I'm sure you'll find them on Google. That's how I found you. And good luck, and massive congratulations for starting up a new business in a pandemic.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for your time. It's much appreciated.
Brilliant. Thanks ever so much, Brett.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.